Hello out there. I decided to make a small video on just how to play the chrono and what stuff we need to take care of and what we need to know when playing chrono. So let's get it started. As most people know, we are the ones making sure that the group have accuracy and quickness. Quickness is just for making your movements faster, making your cast skill faster, and the accuracy is simply for making your cooldowns shorter. It's gonna like speed up the cooldown. So let's get into it. We need something called boon duration. Boon duration will make these boons you see here apply longer than usual. So saying that you cast a skill that gives you 1 second as base of any boon, you will eventually make it last even longer than that. Saying you have 100% boon duration, you would make it last 2 seconds. So how do we build up that boon duration? Yeah, well, we need the proper gear for it. You can't run around in full berserker gear with, let's say, berserker runes and just pretend that you are the perfect chrono, making the boons last as long as you want. Well, you might be able to do that. If you do so, you're perfect. Don't look at this. But if you're not, like me, then you would take a look at your gear. You would add to your gear superior runes of the leadership. These runes are mandatory by now, I would say, because they give in total 30% boon duration. Perfect. So when having that, you need to apply it into the right gear. At the moment, the meta is almost full berserker gear, except the chest piece, which is commanders, and the leggings, which is also commanders. That's for the armor. The reason for it to be commander is that it gives you concentration. Every 50 concentration you have gives you 1% of the burn duration. It's just like if you're used to playing Condi, there is a expertise, yeah, there we go, and a certain amount of expertise is 1% in the condition duration. So it's basically pretty much the same, just burn duration and Condi duration. Okay, so commander gear is having toughness. So we say why not just add full commander gear, because our toughness would then, or our burn duration would then become way higher. Yes, that is true. But they also give the toughness, and that means my current toughness, which is just below 1.4, would get even higher. Meaning that you would probably be the one tanking no matter what you do if you were to add it all to commander gear. So it's not advisable because most people would be running the meta, which is highest damage and not making it over cap on the boon duration, because there is no point to that. You can't get over 100%. So the next thing is that we have 30% boon duration here, plus a little on the concentration, and we think perfect. That is what brings us to 51. No, it's not. Well, I have a slightly modified build, but I have commander weapons as well. The meta is that you have offhand weapons as berserker, and then you have accessories as commanders as well. I have the commander weapons already, so you can work it around. I'm gonna paste the link in the description below, so you can see how my build is, and you can work it around so it would fit you if you already have some commander gear. But, well, you see 51%, but what you don't see is that I have a sigil in here, which makes our boon supply 33% longer for 7 seconds when you swap weapons while in combat. These 33% are not counted in on this. So it's only when I'm in combat and I'm changing weapon, this would get 33% higher. Meaning we don't need to aim for 100% here, we need to aim for something like 66 or slightly below. You can maintain 100% quickness without having 100% boon duration. It's doable, it's not too hard once you get used to chrono. You can do it, I would say, around 90%, and it can still work out pretty fine, especially if you're two chronos in a raid. I'll get more into that later. So that is basically everywhere we get the concentration slash boon duration from. Remember to work around with the concentration. I have amulet and backpack as commanders, Weapons as commanders, leggings, and chest piece as commanders. 33% boon duration on my weapon. Mandatory, by the way. You won't be able to work that around. It's too high without getting too much toughness. And my armor, oh, I said that already, commanders. It's gonna give the little amount of concentration, which makes it all pop up. Okay, so we are at 51% plus the 33. What does that make? Yeah, that's around 84%, 85%. We still need a little bit more, because we're not hitting those 90% that we're talking about or higher. Some would even like to go for 100 and just fine. Just remember your toughness might conflict with tanking, so figure that out every time. So over here I have some food. The normal food you would see is something like the omnom berries. There is multiple variations out there. You can definitely use something else as well. Like the dumplings, it's the same.
Feedback loop initiated.
These give you 100 concentration, which is equal to 6.6 boon duration. So when I said 85, I think I said, then you're gonna add another 6.6, so that's 91%-ish. And then you're gonna have the oil over here, which gives you concentration equal to 3% of your vitality, and concentration equal to 3% of your toughness. With my base duration and using this food, it would bring me to 96.1 boon duration. And that is very fine, you don't need it to be higher, you can if you like. But it's definitely going to do its job when you have it that high, assuming you do the rotation rate. Okay, so we had a look at the armor. Let's go and take a little bit of a look on the traits. The main traits and build you want to see yourself running around with most of the time is probably domination and inspiration, besides the Chronomancer, of course. I'm gonna go over each trait and what they do and point out some of the most important parts here. You'll see domination is your main one most of the time. The first one we need to look at is the Empowered Illusions, which is the meta build at the moment and which is the one you're advised to run with. It's going to give 15% more damage to your illusions, and you think perfect, that's a lot of increase. Yes, it is. Just remember, Mesmer or slash Chrono is not the one that's supposed to do the most damage. So what we can do, if we like and the group is lacking a little bit of CC, you can go up and use this one here. It have a 100% chance of inflicting stun whenever you daze a target. So let's say you're on KC and the group is lacking CC and you just want to help out a little bit more, you can use this one. It have a 5-second internal cooldown, so you're not gonna make 1.25 seconds each time, but it's definitely gonna help out in the end if you need it. So let's go further and look at this one. Signets gain reduced recharge, and activating one grants you distortion and removes conditions. It's the activating this one gives you distortion, which is the most important one to know here, especially if you're running something like Veil Guardian and you need to distort all the greens. I'm not gonna advise you to do that right away. Get familiar with the chrono first. But yeah, this one actually is all about, if I were to activate this here, this signet, you would see distortion popping up somewhere in the bar here. There we go. And I got distortion for 1 second. This have a internal cooldown on 5 seconds. Oh, sorry, that's not yet. No, it's the sharing, and I will come back to that. Yes, but that is the important part. Whenever you gain distortion, it can be done by using a signet. We're gonna head on a little bit, and we are gonna see that whenever we, in the inspiration line, sorry, whenever we use a healing skill, so whenever I'm to use this healing skill or any of the other ones, I would be casting what is Power Cleanse, a lesser Power Cleanse when you're healing, when you're using the healing skill. The Power Cleanse is pretty much, oh, you can't seem to find it. Anyways, the Power Cleanse is actually just a conditional removal, just like it says. Oh, it says right above. Good job. Removes condition from you and nearby allies. One condition removed. and it's gonna remove for your entire sub squad, assuming that you're running a mirror build 5 and 5 people. Okay, that is the first important one to know. It's pretty neat to know, and also remember that your well here is also removing conditions on each pulse. It's a good condition removal. Anyways, the next trait here is the feedback slash the medic's feedback. The trait itself is the medic's feedback, and it's gonna cast this feedback whenever you're reviving an ally. It's gonna increase your revive speed by 10, and it's very neat to have whenever someone is going down, which you will probably see in raids. But there is a few times where you're not allowed to use this trait. Let's say you're doing something like Matthias or Chiron. On these bosses you see the shards coming away from the bosses sometimes, but this feedback would actually reflect, just like you see above, creates a dome around that reflects projectiles. So assuming you're standing on Chiron and resting someone out of the stack, the shards would be reflected into the stack, so you don't want to use this one. What you can do though is take the last one, or you can take the one in the middle. The one in the middle is primarily for when you're using a mantra. This mantra will be charged, like you see here. It's gonna cast a little healing on yourself, but if you were to trade this one, it would cast healing on yourself and allies around. And then you have 2 charges to use to heal yourself. Those 2 charges are only on yourself though, you won't be healing allies around since it's only casting when you're preparing a mantra. But if you're not using the mantra anyways and you're using the will for the extra accuracy, I would advise you to take the lowest one. Okay, so this next little trait here is also pretty important. Grant distortion to nearby allies whenever you give yourself distortion. Looking at the trait before, you see that we have distortion whenever we use a signet, and when I gain the distortion from here, it means my allies would be getting the distortion as well, with the trait here. So, cool. Well, we're able to store it pretty much now. And as you see here, there is the 5-second internal cooldown in the top right corner when with the sharing distortion. It hits 5 targets besides yourself, meaning you can be in a 6-man Veil Guardian or something, and you would be able to distort your entire group, including yourself. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Remember the radius is rather small, so have people standing close by if you are to distort, or position yourself so you would be in the middle of everyone. The next one is debatable to stand between those 2 traits here. This one, restorative illusions. You heal yourself and lose conditions whenever you use a shatter skill. Whenever you use one of these skills, you would be removing one condition you would have on you. Saying I would have poison here, I could press the skill and the poison would instantly be gone, no matter how many stacks it is. And it goes for all of these skills. That's pretty neat, and it's pretty nice to have the small healing if you are struggling on heals. And it's very advisable on a lot of fights. But this next one here is pretty neat as well, if you get used to using it. All your focus skills will be recharging faster, and actually they will just be reduced, not charging faster, but reduced. And focus weapons skills reflect projectiles, meaning that if I were to change my sword with the focus, you see I have this 4 shield, or 4 wall. If I am to place that, any projectile coming from out would be reflected back onto that. So that's pretty neat, assuming you need it of course. I personally prefer to run with this one, since I personally don't find myself good at placing the focus 4 and letting it be just through reflect projectiles. I like to do that, and I find myself to gain a lot from removing the conditions over time. Yeah, so the next one that's really important and you need to have if you are to play this build with the inspiration line, you need to have this last one, which is a lesser signet of inspiration. And whenever you cast a phantasm, one of your 5 skills, or the force skill on the shield, you would be giving a signet of inspiration. So the signet of inspiration is basically to share all the boons you have on you, as it says. You can read this on your own as well. Apply one instance of any boon on you to nearby allies. Meaning, if I were to have all the boons you see here, it would be shared with the amount of time it says here. In one instance, saying I have 25 stacks of might, I would only be sharing one might. But it would last for the entire duration, as it says here, which for me would be 30 seconds. So that's pretty cool, and it's really helpful, and that is the way we're gonna get back to it, but that's the way we are gonna share our quickness to the entire group, besides the will. So it enables us to use the signet and use a phantasm, and that is the exact way we are gonna share our quickness soon. The last thing is for the Chronomancer. You probably always see yourself running like this, and it's very advisable. One thing though, whenever you are in this training area, go take a look on the last one here. It's the alacrity applied to you lasts longer, 50% longer. So whenever I'm standing on the golem and training and I see, oh, my alacrity is 100%, and I think, yes, perfect, I'm the best chrono out there. Well, not necessarily, because you are not giving equally as much alacrity to your party members as you are to you. So I would advise you to trade off this one and take one of the other ones just for training purposes. Okay, so we found ourselves to understand a bit of the traits and what to choose, what not to choose. Now we want to get a little bit into the rotation, but before doing so we also need to understand what each of these skills are doing. And you saw that I were running with sword in the beginning, and yes, you can definitely be doing that, or you can be running with sword focus. There's a few different things that the sword and the focus is doing when it comes to the skills. There is the Phantasm Warden, or there is the Swordsman. They both have different perks and yeah, they do different stuff. This one first here, you would be throwing an axe that immobilize the target. That's pretty cool. You can use the immobilize pretty many places. Though that's not the primary thing. But it creates a phantasm that attacks your target and creates a defensive bubble protecting itself and its allies from projectiles, meaning it would be destroying any projectile coming towards it. So why is that important? Yes, it's really important when you consider that you are running pretty much the same build everywhere, but with these projectile destruction, you would not be running the focus on something Matthias or Chiron, just like you won't be running the feedback bubble. So on Matthias you know he's bouncing in the air and all the shards are coming out. Then if you were to have this summoned, all that's spawning on the other side here and coming towards this one would just be destroyed. Whenever, that's pretty neat when he's jumping, you think, yes, that is. But whenever his bubble is up and we need to reflect all the shards he's shooting out, then you would actually just be destroying those and it won't be working anymore. Okay, I just need to get out of combat for a second, and we will be changing to sword for this particular fight. It doesn't matter much, you will be finding yourself running with sword focus most of the time. Sorry, sword like the main hand and focus as the offhand. It doesn't make a change for our particular fight here. Yeah, let's get into the next part. So we'll just be changing. Okay. We need the wells to build up our alacrity. But what does the wells do besides alacrity? Yeah, well, there is one well here, which is the very important one. It's called Well of Action. That is what's giving us quickness. And the quickness we need to share to the group so we all move faster and cast our skills faster. But that's not all, we also need the alacrity from each of the wells, or at least the well of recall most of the time. yeah, that will reduce our or fasten our cooldowns so we can cast more often. One more thing, that is the shield. We have the shield as well, which is whenever we use the 5 skill like you see here, everyone standing in that shield will be getting quickness for 2.25 seconds. And it's also a stun. Whenever I throw out the shield, I'm just gonna give myself a little bit of alacrity. Every time you shatter, you also give yourself alacrity. But when whoever is standing in this shield will be getting this quickness, but it's also working as a stun. Like 1 second stun each time it hits. And it can hit a target multiple times, so it's not just 1 second. I think it's all the way up to 7 seconds of stun. It can hit a target 7 times, I think it is. Another thing about the shield is that you have the echo of memory and the deja vu. The deja vu will only trigger whenever you are blocking an attack. But the echo of memory is the first one and the primary one. Each time one of these phantasms that you would spawn, like this one, each time this hits, as you will see soon, it will give me alacrity. So let's give it a second, and there we go. It's giving me 2 seconds of alacrity. Consider you having 3 of those running around. You would actually be giving yourself 6 seconds of alacrity for you and your entire subgroup. So that is one thing we definitely want to work around, and getting more of those to give ourselves alacrity. So we reached the part where we want to start our rotation. Before starting the rotation itself, we need to build up some illusions. For each illusion we have, we will extend the duration of time the continuum split is active. And what kind of illusions do we want? Yeah, well, we want the phantasm, the clone, and the echo of memory to be used in the very beginning. After that, we just want to use our phantasm either on the shield or the sword or the focus, depending on your experience and how well you keep up the alacrity. Use the force shield to help building up alacrity if your group is lacking. You will be enabled, as we talked about, to use it twice in a raid scenario where you are actually being able to give yourself a block. Okay, so we're going to start off by using those. In the consumer split, we will use all the wells ones, and after the consumer split ends, we will use all the wells again, except the gravity well. And in the consumer split, we also use the shield 5 to build up the quickness. We are going to start by using the shield 5 just to give ourselves the quickness, so we will be enabled to throw all the wells. Okay, let's give it a try. I will go more into timings on when to do stuff later. So we casted them all once. Do the well of recall, shield 5, change weapons. This is pretty much just a QT rotation. I am not making any adjustments to it because it's actually working pretty well. Timers you need to know about is 12 seconds and 9 seconds. 9 seconds you use this one, the 5 skill, to cast a Signet of Inspiration. When the cooldown is off, you're going to change weapons. You see you still have a short delay, that's okay. Use your shield 4, and then the other is off cooldown, and we're going to do it again. At 12, this is where we change weapons. Master full concentration from the sigil, use it at 9 or something like that, and we are just going to change again. It's off cooldown again, change weapons, still have a short delay, that's okay. Use it off cooldown, and use this one as well. Do not use these 2 wells again because they won't make it for the continual split. Oh, I were too late, but around 12 again and 9, this is where you're going to use it. When it's reaching 0, you're gonna do your continuum split. Bring all the wells first, then the shield. When the shield comes back, it's gonna recharge, changing weapons, and doing it all again. We are pretty much down to a loop now. When it's reaching 12, this is where you normally change weapons. When it's reaching 9, this is where you use the 5 skill. So it's reaching 9 now. When it's off cooldown, we're gonna change weapons. changing weapons, getting the masterful concentration from the sigil, using all the wells again, force shield, at 12 change weapons, at 9 the 5 skill, gonna use these two one more time, so changing, use the shield again, at 12 we change, at 9 we use this. Remember, get those in the continual split, it's pretty important. You see I don't have alacrity, I will get into why in just a second. So enter the continual split, and we hope to make it. We do. And it's coming back, use it, change weapons. And yes, this is pretty much a loop. So that's pretty much the rotation which you need to work out. Timing on Chronomancer is pretty important, since if you are to do the 5, I say you need to use this one whenever these two says 9. Like you are here, it says 12, you change the weapon, they say 9, you're going to use it. If you are to use it when these two are not at 9 or higher, you might just be interrupting your own trait, which is a 24-second cooldown on the lesser signet of inspiration, meaning you can use these every 24th second to cast a signet of inspiration. But if you are doing it more frequently, like we're using the shield 4 as well, those will not be casting it unless the timer is reached. So it's just like any other skill, it's just internal. So you saw my alacrity was lacking a little bit. It's pretty hard, and I would actually say impossible in this scenario to get 100% alacrity, since we are not able to make a block. This build requires you to run more than just one of these, which we were only able to at the point. And I made this, you see I have the trait up here, just to make this a real life scenario for your team members. This is what your team members would be getting without food, without you being able to block anything as well. You normally have this trait which enlongs your alacrity. I took it off. This is what your team members would be getting at the moment. Train around with that in here, I would suggest. If I were to take this one, I have no doubt that this would be equally as high as my quickness. So that is the rotation, that is the important points. In the rotation you're going to use the gravity well in the continuum split, only use the gravity well out of the continuum split if needed. The gravity well is a CC, and depending on the raid scenario, you can use the Signet of Moa or you can use the Time Warp as well. Depends. I would say for your healing skill, you can use this Power Return Mantra of Recovery for something like Sloth. If you use it at Sloth, you can be running restorative mantras. If you are to do so, I would suggest you be running Minstrel gear, which is your damage would just be lower, but you would be healing and you would still have the boon duration. If you don't have Minstrel gear, you can use this one to remove conditions. That is the primary purpose. It have a way shorter cooldown, so you would be charging it once, and all good, you would be removing conditions, you would be healing yourself, but each time you are to use it now, you would remove one condition, meaning you can remove fear from something like Sloth. Figure out where you want to use it, if you even want to use it. It's highly advisable at some encounters though. But besides that, I have no more to say. Good luck out there and happy gaming.